Unfiltered opinion.
Sometimes you have ideas and you're not quite sure why.
Secure the bag.
Sometimes you meet people and realize there's probably a reason why you stayed in touch.
Just listen.
Sometimes all the pieces just come together by themselves.
I'm Jimmy Moyaha.
And I'm Simon Brown.
Welcome to Insider Exchange.
In our deep dive this week, we are diving into the world of electrified vehicles. We're going to be taking a look at EVs, the EV space, and what it all means for South Africa. And for this one, we thought we'd bring in an EV specialist. She is the founder of recharged.co.za. She's been a resident EV specialist for the longest time, and she's a good friend of ours, Nafisa Akabor. She joins us in studio to take a look at the world of EVs and see what we make of them. Nafisa, thanks so much for taking the time. Thank you for getting up early in the morning. I know you had heated seats, so it didn't really make a difference, but thank you anyway. Thank you for coming through.
Hey, Jimmy, fantastic to finally meet you.
Yeah, good to have you on the show. So perhaps let's start the conversation there on the EVs, right? I'm in a Volvo XC60 Recharge at the moment. You're in a Mini Electric.
No, I was in a Mini Electric for 6 months. I'm now in a VW ID4 Pro.
Okay, so you're in a VW ID4 Pro. Sai, you're in a Mazda MX-5. All three vehicles have heated seats.
Yes. And that's where I leave the conversation. I got to be honest, I love my Mazda, and I bet your car doesn't drift or wheel spin like mine does. Can you drift an
all-wheel drive? So the Volvo is an all-wheel drive. You could probably
won't.
drift the smaller vehicles.
If it's rear wheel.
Yeah, if it's rear wheel, it's easier to do. I mean, you could try it in an all-wheel drive.
Can you spin from a robot?
I've got enough power to make it seem like I'm spinning from a robot.
See, I'll
You're
check
trying
out.
to one-up us here.
No, that's because it's all I got. It's all I got. To be clear, my car's a 2009 model. In those days, batteries were for phones and Casio Walkmans.
And it's still firing though. Your vehicle
yes.
is still going.
Yes,
right? So
yes.
we've got 2025s, you've got a 2009, but we've all got heated seats, so they've been around for a while. But the EV world is kind of been one of those things where I think back to, say, pandemic, maybe 2020 or so, nobody ever thought we'd get to where we are in EVs. I mean, maybe you, Nafisa, because you've been keeping up with the EV space for a long time, but I think there was a lot of skepticism, and there is still a lot of skepticism in South Africa around how EVs work, whether or not it's worthwhile, range anxiety, all of those things. And we'll unpack all of those in a bit more detail, but we've come a long way, effectively, as a market for electrified vehicles, whether it's plug-in hybrids, full EVs, and all of that. We've actually come a long way.
I think we recovered post-COVID because obviously the numbers took a dive there, but it's looking... I don't normally use the word exponential. I mean, nobody should just use it randomly, but our growth is looking kind of that way. So yeah, the growth is there. And also so many new Chinese entrants.
That's it.
Actually, yeah, I was
That's
looking...
affordable?
Yeah, I was looking at the BYDs, at the Dolphin or one of them. It's like a 500k car.
It's a great car. I drove it.
It would get me... She drove it. She's driven them all.
She's driven all of them. No, but this
Okay,
is why...
I must just park my EV. What's my thing? Jealousy aside.
No, but that's why we brought
That's a
Nafisa onto the show.
500k
Yeah.
car.
I
Yeah.
actually recommended it to my sister. She already has a previous gen Mini because she's got 10 trips a day for her kids, and she was like, she's not paying the price of petrol. So she was looking for another car, and I actually suggested the BYD Dolphin.
So let's use that as a good starting point for the conversation. Who then gets an EV? Because Simon does very little travel in the mornings, but I suppose an EV is then perfect for Sai.
I do
because
500k's a month.
But that's the thing. Surely then an EV is perfect for you because you don't do that
Simon
much
and I
traveling.
on the same
That's
wavelength.
it.
I work from home. I attend events. I come here. So I don't drive a lot. I do run errands, attend events, basically. I think that's quite
That's
similar
what I
to
do.
you.
Yeah.
And then people who have kids who have multiple trips and extramurals, and you got so many trips a day and you're doing it. So I think that's another factor. And if you work very close to where you live, my husband has a 1.5k commute, so 3k's a day, and
That's
I'm
less
trying
than-
to.
700 meters? No, 250
Okay.
meters.
Well, to here.
Yes.
No, it's less than
Oh,
that.
wow.
It's about 80.
You could walk here.
No, I did walk
does
here.
walk
No,
here.
Okay.
No, if I drive here, it takes longer. So
Yeah, so there's a fair amount of people I think who fit that category where you don't drive a lot, or if you drive so much, short distance trips that the EV makes sense in urban areas.
I have a friend who actually prefers to live closer to where he works as opposed to living further out and paying less in terms of rent and then having a car to commute in. So willing to sacrifice on the car installment and say, I'd rather live closer to my work or my destination than have to commute and drive and all of that. And with the amount of traffic we have on Joburg roads, I mean, you were out this morning on the M1. I came through via back routes. There's traffic
There was a lot
every
of
morning,
traffic.
right?
Yeah, it was crawling.
But what I'm finding that in the traffic, the EV makes sense. It's convenient. You're not sitting there and worrying about, okay, cool, this is how much fuel I'm using or whatever.
It's meant for the start-stop traffic, which is literally it.
And for some vehicles, like the plug-in hybrid I've been driving, you're able to actually recharge the vehicle as you're driving, right? So let's look at some of those factors. Full EV versus plug-in versus mild EV, kind of what are the main differences there?
So the hybrids as a whole it's a bit of the best of both worlds. I think if you're skeptical or you want to go the route but you're not sure, it's great to get the plug-in hybrid. And then the car you're driving, I know it has a fair amount, like 90 kilometers of range. That's a fair distance.
Is
you know?
it? What's the usual range on a plug-in hybrid?
It's definitely under 100 kilometers.
Okay.
But roughly around the 80, 90, I would say, or between 50 and 90.
Okay.
The mild hybrids have slightly less. You know, the hybrids kick in when you overtaking someone and you're starting the car. That's why you notice it's silent and smooth and easy to drive. But the ones that have the dedicated battery, like the ones you're charging, 90 Ks is pretty decent.
And they charge off
do a
regenerative
short-
charging.
Yes.
So you've got two options, right? So you've got the option to plug it in to a charging station or set it to charge and then it charges
drive.
on as you brake. So as you drive, whatever kinetic
And then
energy.
what's your fuel consumption on that?
So that's what I found quite interesting. Your fuel consumption comes down dramatically when you drive it in hybrid mode. It is meant for that. So it is meant to then optimize your driving to say, if you're driving long distance, okay, we'll use the engine more, but you're getting better fuel economy there anyway. If you're driving short distances, we'll use the battery. So therefore, you still
Exactly.
get the range on your full tank. The vehicle I had, the XC60, full tank was around 900 kilometers with the 80-90.
How big is your tank?
I don't know. I estimate 900 Ks. I'm probably putting it a 70, maybe a 75 liter tank.
Okay.
I haven't. I'll go check the spec and I'll come back to you on that. But either way, you still get the benefit of the range and the power. And I think for me, that's what I enjoyed about the drive. And I know we said we'd do this, and I'm going to take Simon into the car. We're going to go experience the vehicle because maybe he'll buy an EV. Who knows? Anything's possible these days.
I can't. So my problem is I can't plug mine in. I live in a block of flats.
That's-
There's no
that's a
charger
big
in the
issue.
flats, and I'm 6 floors up. I can't get a cable down.
So let's go into those challenges, right? So Sai, that's one of the challenges that has been abundantly clear. Shortage of charging stations, inability to charge in certain conditions, right? The other one that has been a challenge, and it's a minor one, I don't know it, but I just thought of it from a practical sense, is the silence. Right?
Is that a bit jarring?
So it's for me, it's less the jarring on my part, but if I'm walking through Rosebank or Sandton or wherever, and I'm crossing the road, I can hear an MX-5 coming up the highway at whatever speed or whatever, approaching the robot. As a pedestrian, I've literally driven around and pedestrians cross in front of you and they don't know the car's on. They don't know that at any moment you could hit them with the car. So perhaps the EV manufacturers should look into that.
Do you
Like
know
put a
there's an
beep
EU
on
law
it.
about that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it can't be completely silent. That's why I think something put the fake sounds also.
Yeah.
But yeah, the passengers need to be, not passengers, pedestrians need to be aware that there's an EV approaching them. I also find the same with your cat. Like my sister has her EV. If the cat is sitting in the yard sleeping, how do you know? You don't want to accidentally reverse over an animal, you know?
That's true.
That's another issue.
So when you put it in reverse, it does beep, but now it beeps almost like a truck. You know those trucks? We put a truck in reverse, it goes beep, beep, beep. Okay,
Yeah.
not as loud.
A garbage truck.
Yeah.
Not as loud. No, I will say the Volvo is a lot more eloquent in the sound, but that is the nature of Volvos, right?
Yeah.
But the sound was a big thing. The charging thing was a huge concern as well. And I suppose this is in line with the charging. It's the range anxiety. How far can I go? What can I do? And I guess I didn't have range anxiety because of the fact that I knew I had
hybrid,
I
yeah.
had the ICE engine anyway. But let's go through that, because you and I have spoken about the charging side of it as well. There's
Yes.
more and more charging stations coming up. The likes of Charge or Zero Carbon Charge just got 100 million from the DBSA to build out more charging
Yeah,
infrastructure.
they're putting 2 on the N3 now. So you can go to Durban very comfortably.
Yes.
It's
Because
2
that's it.
stops.
Most of their ranges are 400 to 500. And if I'm going to Durban, now what?
You need
And then
300 to
you
get to
need that-
Harrismith, and then you need...
And then you need those contemporary Amperex technology peeps with their batteries that gets to 80% in 10 minutes.
Yes, because that was another annoyance for me, was how long it takes to charge.
So another thing about the plug-in hybrids, except the BYD Shark, they only charge on AC chargers. And
Yes,
that's very
not
slow.
DC charging.
Exactly. So that's an
Yes.
issue driving a plug-in hybrid.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I
It will
wasn't
charge very
normal
slow.
for freaking
Yeah.
out about that.
No, it does take a while.
Okay,
And if
okay.
you're putting it on a 3-pin plug
what-
at home, that's even slower.
How different is it from DC to AC? What is the
The
speed
maximum
of charge?
is about 21 or 22 on AC, but you're not getting that at home.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 7 on a 3-pin plug. It's 3.2 kilowatt.
This is kilowatts.
Yes.
Kilowatt
speed,
hours,
in speed.
or- okay.
My home charger is 7.
Okay.
But it was then the manufacturers capped the speed on a plug-in hybrid. So even though mine can do 7, I previously had another Volvo and it took very long to charge.
Okay.
I wasn't getting the maximum 7. So that's another issue. that you
Yeah,
have to-
so these are issues that obviously you'd have to consider,
You have
one
to
as a
consider,
buyer,
yes.
but also as an OEM. Like you said, the Chinese manufacturers have probably thought about these things, because you and I spoke about the side. We spoke about NIO that has those charging stations. You just drive in, they drop the
Swaps the
battery,
battery.
switch in, put in a new
Yeah,
battery, and
that's
you're on your
swappable
way.
one. Yeah.
Because, I mean, most range anxiety is completely bogus. I mean, 400 kilometers is a lot of kilometers for the
I
average
agree,
person.
yeah.
And if you're going to Durban, different story. But how often do we go to Durban? So mostly range anxiety, it's anxiety. It's not actually real. Although you did a trip out into the
I
middle
did
of
too,
nowhere.
Walmer
Yeah,
and Stud.
yeah, that was...
Yeah, that surprisingly, I had 170 kilometers to spare on a Mini. That's crazy. So the range anxiety, I believe, is a non-factor. I say
Yeah.
that as someone who's driven so many and the distance I drive.
But
But the roads are flat.
I was going to say, is that not due to the fact that, one, the roads might be flat, 2,
You're regenerating.
You're not driving in traffic, you're not driving in conditions that would put the battery under a lot more stress for consumption, almost like cruise. When you drive down
Yes,
to
cruise.
down to Durban, you've done it in the Roadster. If you're speeding
My
down to
Roadster
Durban,
does not have cruise control. My Roadster is not designed for cruising, dude.
no, but if you're driving to Durban, right, and you are speeding and overtaking and driving aggressively and all of that, it does consume more fuel. But if you're coasting and relaxing,
Exactly.
then it does, and that's a normal vehicle, right? So I can imagine the battery-powered vehicles would be the same.
Can I
Yes.
give my top tip for roadstering to Durban? When you see the overhead camera that does speed prosecution, pull over and have a smoke.
Can I give you a crazy stat about that Mini? I was scared to drive it because at the time, based on your driving, when I recharged before the trip, it told me 270 kilometers of range. I was naturally freaking out. But from Johannesburg, from Sunninghill to Potchefstroom, I used 20. I netted 20 kilometers of range, and that's a 144 kilometer stretch. How wild is that?
Wow.
So it really depends on your driving, your coasting, your cruising.
Yeah, how you drive,
Whether
how
you,
much
you're blasting the
aircon.
aircon, which I was not.
So I experienced that as well. Side note, the Volvo 71 liter tank. So I was spot on when I said 70 to 75, 71 liter tank. But when I was driving the vehicle, I found that on consumption as well. You asked about the consumption side of it. When you're driving or you're putting pressure on the engine, driving at high speeds or whatever it is you're doing, fuel consumption naturally goes up. And the one thing I appreciated about the plug-in hybrid is you don't have a lag. So you know how the old school vehicles have turbos or twin turbos, and there's turbo lag and all those things, right? This is the petrol head in me coming out. I apologize. Bear with me for a moment. You don't have that in a plug-in hybrid because for the first 50, 60 kilometers that you're driving, 60 k's per hour, you're driving on the battery. And then the moment you need to switch to the ICE engine, it's effortless. And the Volvo I particularly like because it's, 340 kilowatts of power?
Sure, that's powerful.
That's just shy of an X3M. And it's
Okay,
responsive.
So it goes fast. Because the BYD Dolphin, which is like the only one I know, does 7 seconds, 0 to 100. And my non-petrol head brain says, isn't that slow?
So
Look, EVs are fast. You put your foot down and you're getting the maximum power,
'cause-
right?
and the thing with that is because with an EV, all of the torque is available up
Yes.
front. right? You don't have to work through the gears and all of that.
That's also why I love driving them.
The gearbox and the engine, everything's done on the battery here, now, immediate, right?
There's no changing of gears. So it's
right,
instant,
and
yeah.
that's the nice thing about it. But at the same time, I then wonder, do you then go the route of a full EV, or do you then go the route of a plug-in hybrid? Personally, I'm still on the plug-in hybrid, but that's because I still like the ICE engine. I still, and when I thought about that, something that was very interesting that I saw was Porsche. Porsche has always said, we're not the EV people. Don't come to us with EVs. We're not. They never signed up for this thing. They're not even part of the gentleman's agreement that exists between German manufacturers to cap their vehicles at 250 k's an hour, because they're like, no, we make Porsches. That's not for us, right?
Yeah.
And I saw something online that says that Porsche's working on a new kind of hybrid for them, where it's very much still a Porsche. So you've got the normal ICE engine, but certain things are taken care of by electric motors. So you lose an alternator, you put in an electric motor. You dump the turbo, you put in an electric motor. So certain things that would cause the car to be inherently slower, I suppose, now get replaced with hybrid parts or battery parts.
Yeah.
And now suddenly Porsche's got an EV that outperforms some of its own other vehicles. And I'm wondering, perhaps, is that not the future of where things might be going as well?
Is that a plug-in hybrid you're speaking about?
I'm not sure. I will check.
Because you asked about the mild hybrid.
Yeah.
Those are the ones where you don't need to recharge it. It internally does everything for
Yeah,
you.
so
Could
the
be
new-
The
one of
Toyota
those.
Corolla Cross is a very good example and a very popular car that's doing really well. And theoretically, you can get 1,200 kilometers on one tank.
Yeah, there's the new Renault Duster as well, the
Yeah.
2025, also that built-in. Yeah.
So people
But
who
these
don't want to
cars
worry
are-
about the charging and the slow charging,
These
then
cars
yeah.
are weird. So again, I'm stuck on the Dolphin because it's a R500,000 car, which is actually quite cheap for a car, which is a scary
Yeah.
thought. Service interval,
You mean cheap for an EV?
200,000 kilometers.
So these services are just a formality. You don't even technically need it.
It's just to check if your Duracells are still Duracelling.
Because you're not even hitting the brakes. You're not even using the brake pads. The car is regenerating power. The moment you lift your foot off the accelerator, you're not even touching the brakes.
That's true. The Porsche. What was the question?
It was like a mild hybrid.
Oh,
or-
it's a T hybrid system that they've got, which features 2 electric motors, one in the transmission and one powering an electric turbocharger. So they're now using it in the transmission. They've put it in the turbocharger, as they say, but they've also put it in other components within the vehicle. But it still runs on a 3.6 liter flat 6 engine. So we're not sacrificing
Yeah,
that, right?
okay.
And I appreciate that. Much like with the Volvo, manufacturers in some cases have kept to their identity. EVs for a lot of the time, the ID4 is one example, which I can't fathom and I can't understand. When you design an EV, why does it look like nothing else in your range? Like ID4 looks like no other VW other than the Taigo, which is now a new one. But Volvo, when they designed an XC60 hybrid, looks like the Volvo XC60. So you're not getting a different car.
I think it depends on your user base. When Audi launched the e-tron, it was very difficult. They wanted to not shock their customer. It looks very much like their regular cars, except that it's electric.
Well, then they shouldn't have put a 3 million rand price tag on it, Nafisa.
Have you seen that EVs lose 50% of the value in the first year? So e-trons were going for 1.4 million.
That's it. So that's
So I should buy a Dolphin next year.
next year.
Wait for someone to, no, really,
Yeah.
buy a one-year-old EV.
So why is that? So let's get into the price point, because that's the other component that people have to consider when
Yes.
going down the EV road. Is it worth it to now switch to some hybrid thing? Does it cost me more than a standard ICE engine? Sai's mentioning the BYD, but in the BYD's range, you've got the other Chinese automotive manufacturers.
Oh, sure.
And those OEMs are already pricing a lot cheaper than
Yes.
the traditional European manufacturers that we know. How is the pricing from an EV point of view?
It's still high because of the 25% import duties. But as I mentioned earlier, EVs lose 50% of their value in the first year. And if you want a good deal, you rather buy a 1-year-old or older car.
Okay.
And if the Chinese vehicles are super cheap, if you wait a year and a half, you're going to get them even cheaper. Because I know there's a journalist from another publication recently who purchased a GWM Aura for 50% of the price in EV. He literally sold his car immediately and jumped straight for that deal.
Okay.
So if you see a deal like that, then
So
I
the
think
Dolphin
it's-
will be 250k next year.
So we can save
you-
up for that. We can
No,
wait for
so
that.
there's a problem. So I got 2 questions. Firstly,
Yeah.
is it cheaper to run on power than petrol? Or is this
It's
just
been proven the
environmentally?
per kilometer it is cheaper on an
Okay.
electric.
Even
But the
with
problem in
Eskom?
South Africa is
Even with Eskom, that's a valid question.
No. Actually, in defense of
Look,
Eskom,
can I tell you something
we're
about
below
that?
mid-range of power.
I pay currently R2.45 per kilowatt hour at home, so that's my rate. If I go to a DC charger in Mall of Africa, I'm paying R7.35 per kilowatt hour. So
Ooh, I see
you
a-
said you can't charge your car at home. So if you're getting that often, you're paying R7 something, right?
But
because you can't charge at home.
I see a business model. Someone's arbitraging you R5 a kilowatt hour.
But public charges, you pay for speed, right?
Yeah.
At home, you pay per kilowatt hour.
Okay.
That's the
Right,
difference.
right.
You pay for the
Okay.
convenience
No,
of a
but
DC
now,
charger.
but now I still see a business opportunity
Yeah.
side, because if you have a DC type of setup that that enables me to charge at home, whether it's via a portable UPS or whatever.
I don't think your system at home can handle a DC charger. Never mind that they cost over R1 million.
Fair enough. You'll
And
collapse the
Yeah.
whole building's
You're gonna-
electricity.
Exactly.
You're
yeah.
going to need three-phase power. But
Yeah.
my other challenge, and we spoke about this before we came on air, I live in a block of flats. I rent, so it's moot, but let's pretend I owned. Could I get permission to put it in the basement to charge my vehicle? Maybe. And that's a huge stumbling block because,
Yeah.
I mean, I got a friend, actually, they're in New York. They just run a cable out their window into the pavement and charge their car, and that works fine because, so he's got, I think he's actually got a Tesla. His range is whatever it is, but to his point, like he never does that every day. He charges
Yeah.
overnight, everything's fine, but he can charge it. I can't charge mine.
And in
It
South
is-
Africa, are you willing to put a plug running through where someone it's exposed? You don't know someone can vandalize it. It has happened before.
No, but so
Yeah,
this
the
is
answer is no.
This is
Yeah,
a genuine
exactly.
concern that I had when I got to one of the malls, right? I got to the mall, I got to the charging station, and I was like, but you expect me to just leave this thing plugged in? Thankfully, though, there is an answer for that. When you plug the vehicle in and you have the the charge card that you use, it locks the cable in. So someone can't just come and steal your cable and use it to charge it.
Hold on,
They
is it your-
cannot, but when certain cars reach 100%, it becomes unlockable.
Oh no!
But that's also a setting you check in the app of the car. Some of them allow you to.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
Mini
hold
I
on, so
had allowed
someone's-
me.
They're going to switch it and charge my car and your
yeah,
car.
yeah.
Because there's another problem.
'Cause that was the other concern.
The one space here in Rosebank, where you can charge,
Yeah.
there are only two.
Yes.
Which means if I've gone and watched a 4-hour movie,
Mm-hmm.
then some poor sod can't, like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I'm taking the
Nafisa
space.
and I came through to look for that exactly. I got here, someone is parked there. She can't use it, I can't use it, and that person that's parked there could be at work for 8 hours charging their
Exactly.
phone, and that now means no one can use that for the next 8 hours because you
I've
can't
experienced
unplug it.
that where you go to the charger and someone's using it's occupied. Then
Yes.
what? That's another factor to consider, right?
Yeah, and I suppose this is where we need more infrastructure.
thought
We
of
need
that.
more charging
And at-
infrastructure to
At
make it
best, you
accessible.
get 1 or 2 bays, right? The one here in Rosebank has 2 bays. If Jimmy showed up with his car there, then both would have been gone.
Yeah, so this is
hey, look, I still want one. I'm still deeply
really.
jealous.
Yeah, you need to scout the
Okay.
Yeah,
platforms.
yeah. Although, I mean, I just want to. I remember I was interviewing this chap once. I won't name his name, and he had the Jaguar I-Pace, and
yeah?
I'm live on air interviewing him, and I Google it, and it's like I've never seen such an ugly Jaguar in my entire life.
And that's
I mean,
the
Jaguars
Yeah.
are beautiful. I mean, the
Yeah.
E-Type is the car.
That's the point. That was the point I made around the fact that,
That they
why
look
is
very
it? And it's only the
out
EV
there.
range, Si. It's only the EV range where in a model, right? So Audi, the e-tron looks like nothing else that they've got in their range.
Yes.
The Jaguar, the I-Pace looks like nothing else. It's like you have the shape of a normal car, and you're like, no, we're gonna go do something else.
I think they just want it to
And
be
make it
distinctive
ugly.
because it's a new thing next gen.
Okay, then don't make it ugly. Exactly that.
Please don't. It's a Jaguar. You
Just a-
make me cry.
So this is what I appreciated about the Volvo, the XC60. It looks exactly the
exactly-
same
yeah.
as the other XC60, the combustion engine one.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. I can live with that.
I think it's also a bit unusual for people to see there's no grill on the car. I mean, that's a quick way to tell a car is an EV, right?
yeah, there is.
It's
I mean,
full-
Full
we had-
EV.
Yeah, a full
Full
BEV.
EV.
Yes, battery electric.
Now that you say that, I remember there's models where it's just the grill
It's
is
just weird
covered.
when people look at you driving. A lot of people are waving at me in traffic. Some wound the window down to say "nice car" on the
oh, I hate
VW.
when that happens.
Yeah, it's a bit too. It's getting a lot of attention.
Yeah,
I
it
was-
doesn't happen with an I-Pace, don't
No,
worry.
but I was driving something. What was I driving? Oh, I rented a Jimny once, and like all the other Jimneys want to be my friends. I'm like, no, I'm not a sociable person.
Yeah, there are certain vehicles where the other drivers wave at you, but yeah, when the EVs are so distinct, people notice and wave.
But the short answer is, I mean, you're all in on EV,
I
more or
am.
less, and you're totally. It works, and you're happy, and you're
Yes,
comfortable.
yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
But it's also not
my
for
lifestyle.
everyone.
It's not for everyone.
Right?
I don't do long distance.
Okay, so lifestyle is important. Cost point is important. Convenience is important, such as living in
In a
an
apartment or a
accessible
house.
point of view.
Well, I think all the buildings coming up now are going to consider putting EVs in the basement, right?
Baldwin has to.
Yeah.
If they want any, I mean, Baldwin.
But again, they
literally-
need to manage the queuing process. But I agree. I mean, new buildings.
Have
I mean,
to have it.
there's the Hive here in the corner
Yes.
of something and something. And I mean, if they don't have a lot of EV charging stations,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how you manage it to the point that someone's there and now you're queuing and it's
And you
weird
can't police someone. So even if I get a notification that says my car is full, as you say, Sai, if I'm sitting there enjoying a movie, I'm not going to get up from Stoke or walk out to go unplug my charger and then come back and miss half of my movie, right? I'm just going to sit through the
Maybe
movie.
you can choose the setting to say discharge the vehicle at 100%, right? But
Okay.
then people could be scared to do that.
Yeah, no, I don't want
I
want
had
to
a
miss.
car, it reached 100%, and I was a bit taken aback when I got there. Somebody else had unplugged it and plugged it in theirs. But I only felt better because my car was on 100%. It
Yeah,
was a
but
bit
who pays for
invasive.
that? It's
What do you
very invasive because if you're using my cable and my charge card.
Sorry, it wasn't my cable. It was the one attached to the public charger.
okay.
But it does feel
So
weird.
Growth
It does
Point
feel-
Properties have their own. It was Santon City.
I've
does
got
feel-
anxiety
Yeah.
about it.
It does feel weirdly
No, it
invasive.
feels weird, invasive. Like someone
But hang
touched
on,
my
you
car.
got to take your own cable.
No, the car comes with it. Don't worry.
Oh,
But
no.
I know,
But
but-
some of the DC chargers
No,
come
I'm
with
using
it.
my own cable right now in Rosebank. Yeah, the cars come with your own
Yeah,
cable.
so-
Oh, South Africa, Johannesburg.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's why the cables lock into the car, so no one can just take it out of the car.
I'm actually using the charger doesn't have its own because it's an AC.
Yeah.
Yeah. The DC ones will have their own cable, obviously.
Okay, look, I love EVs. I hope to own an EV one day, but man, this stuff's all complicated. I just go to a petrol station, of which there are 50. I pull up, chock.
Wasn't Shell supposed to roll out their own EVs anyway?
They might. This was before they sold the business, but that's the perfect note to leave the conversation on. Simon's viewpoint is that we all have different use cases for it. We'd all love an EV, but I suppose the infrastructure still needs to get to where it needs to be for us to all be comfortable to move across. Before we go, we'd love to get your thoughts on the EV world. Give us your experiences around EV vehicles. If you've driven one, if you've test driven one, if you're considering buying one, what are you looking for in an EV vehicle? And do you agree with us that they are, some of them, just way too ugly? Tell us what some of the best features are that you've seen in an EV, or some of the features that you would want in an EV, and tell us which the best looking one is. I think we'll leave the conversation on that note. Thank you again to Nafisa for joining us. That's the deep dive. We wrap things up with Investor Insights. We are taking a look at the FSCA increasing their warnings. They're ramping those up in a big way. But more than that, we're going to be updating something on our preferred pick wall. We're going to be adding something quite interesting that we found from China. So stick around for that. And we'll obviously, at the end of the show, as we always do, share our unfiltered opinion of the week. Sai, the FSCA conversation around the warnings. There have been a couple of warnings that have come out of late, and perhaps we'll see if we can reach out to the FSCA's consumer awareness team to do some work around what it is that they're putting out there. But a lot of the warnings are centered around the CFD space and people providing unsolicited investment advice and gathering investment information and all of that. And a lot of that is your influencers, your finfluencers, your come make money with me kind of situations. Now, that's always a big thing to worry about, and that's always a big thing that comes up on a regular basis. The FSCA taking it seriously as a regulator means that it is a serious problem. Side note, not financial advice. You know what the show is, you know the disclaimers on the show, and you know why we have the disclaimers on that show. Don't be that person. But yes, I'm happy to see these warnings come out and these things come out, because for far too long, consumers and the public have been the victims of scams that have been perpetrated, or of not understanding what product is being invested in. And as a result of that, you lose money, and then, suddenly it's not my fault that you lost the money.
Yeah, 100%. And there certainly is a ton happening. I was trolling around and I went down a rabbit hole on TikTok over the weekend, and it was frankly just terrifying what's out there. He bought Signia and it went to 236 Rand. It's like, no, dude, Signia's never been above 26 Rand. Like, no. But of course, you and I know this, but the rest of the world doesn't. Ergo, the challenge. I think they're up against it. I mean, the first problem is that finfluencer on on the TikToks is not regulated by the FSCA. So there's nothing the FSCA can do. Now, if they are taking money, now we can, because the SARB and prudential authorities can all get involved. But the FSCA is there to regulate the industry, and that industry is people who are there, key individuals, FSP operators, those with R1s and RE1s and 5s and all of that type of stuff. Lacquer. But that person on the socials is none of those and don't care for the FSCA. So this is a hard one to, and I mean, I remember with Mirror Trader International, and eventually the FSCA got into their offices, but it was so late in the process. And I remember saying, like, you guys need an FSCA license. And they're like, nope, we don't, because of reasons which were completely fictitious. But they were taking money. So that's different. The person who's just, doing a little WhatsApp thing and stuff, they're not taking money. They're just scamming. Well, so is Mirror Trader. But,
is Mirror Trader.
So this is not so much the FSCA as it is the NPA and SAPS. And oh dear.
It's a bigger problem. It always has been a problem. And it's something that we will continue to, if we can help along the way with our communities and all of that and just shed some light on that, we will definitely be doing that, because the last thing we would want is anyone in our community to fall victim to these sorts of things. They are still out there. The reality is there are some people out there that choose to operate in manners that they shouldn't be operating, and it's for everybody to kind of deal with that collectively rather than for it to be one person's responsibility. But of course, take extra caution, take extra care when dealing with these sorts of things, and make sure that you stay on the safe side of things. If something doesn't make sense or is too good to be true, just stay away from it. No matter what the situation is, just stay away from it. So don't look at the other situations that you might be dealing with and say, perhaps this can solve my problems or get me out of this problem. It's probably best not to do that, because you might find yourself digging into a deeper problem. But that's where we're going to leave that. We're going to see if we can reach out to our friends at the FSCA and see if we can offer them any assistance, any help that they might need from our perspective. In our community as well, we'd always welcome the ability to help people there. So if we're able to help anyone there, then let us know in the comments. But yes, stay safe, folks. Stay safe out there. We're going to get to our stock pick. I was trolling through just companies in general, stumbled upon this one, and more than 10,000 restaurants across the world. They spun out from Yum. So Yum China is, of course, listed in China. Yum is also listed in the US. And quite
Yum China is in New York as well.
Yes. Quite listed in New York as well. But quite an interesting stock to add to the wall, because I've always held the view that you don't necessarily go after the consumer spaces like that, so the famous brands and all of that, unless they're doing exceptionally well. So something like the Spur Group that has no debt and all of that kind of makes sense. But when you go to restauranteering and you go to those high consumption areas of business where your entire revenue is based on a consumer, and then the strength of that consumer determines whether or not they will come into your store, that for me was always a risky kind of stock to invest in. But for some reason, I really liked Yum.
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't know there was a Yum China, and then I had to go and find out, how did this happen? To your point, spun out. So their own brands, KFC. Now we need to pause here. I'm not a big fast food person, but KFC, man.
Have you seen the KFC menu? The new menu. There's a new menu. I will get you the new menu. Okay. I discovered it this weekend. I haven't tried it yet, but there's a new menu.
I don't do the wraps. I'm not interested in wraps, but
but there's chicken tendies,
the rounders and tendies and all of that stuff. Man, give me some. But then they got Pizza Hut, which is the worst pizza in the whole world. Okay, so win one, lose
balance.
One. Balance, I suppose. What we and then others. They've also got Taco Bell, Lovazar, which is the coffee brand, etc.
Oh yes.
And to your point, 245,000 employees, 10,000 stores. I mean, this is ginormous.
And it's diversified.
It is, I'm assuming it is mostly China-based, because China's response in the aughts to get people going was build infrastructure, trains and cities and power plants and stuff. And they're still doing that. But their response now is to try and fire up consumption.
Get people consuming.
They're bringing in things like medical aid and retirement and stuff, so that people save less and spend more, And these folks are going to be sitting right in the middle of that.
Right? And
With KFC.
That's it. And I think what I appreciate about it is because you've got such a diversified and wide footprint across store, across product, across whatever, you're not reliant on saying if our KFC brand doesn't do well, we are in trouble as a business, you know? There's no concentration risk, which is another thing, something like if we localize it, something like the Spur Group has done well with the Hussar Grill under that brand and all of the other smaller brands that they have
Rockamama's
exactly right. So in the restauranteering business or in the food space, especially from a consumption point of view, I think that diversity is essential. Famous Brands is also quite diversified. They've got the Mug and Bean, the Wimpy, the Steers, the Fishaways, all sorts of things. So you kind of offset, maybe my client or my consumer doesn't like this or they want a cheaper price point, and that's something that perhaps would serve them quite well here. The question then becomes, I mean, from an international point of view, from a local point of view, we've got Spur on our wall. From an international point of view, where do we put this?
Yeah, because they have an old Beijing twister. So they have unique recipes. They have and that is it's a wrap, but we'll pause them. Crispy chicken, cucumber, spring onion, and a sweet hoisin style sauce. It's like a Peking duck.
You are so excited about this.
Oh, I'm hungry for Peking duck. Problem is, Peking duck is for two, and my wife doesn't eat duck. So
that's more for
doing
you.
For lunch.
Oh.
More for me.
Actually, there we'll go try it out.
Where does it fit? I mean, I was going to say, surely it's blue chip. I mean, it's got so the dividend CAGR is for 8.5% since going. Mind you know, it was founded in 87. Oh, but it wasn't listed back then.
Yes.
It listed more recently.
More recently.
Surely something, I mean, this is proper mature. Surely this is kind of blue chipish.
Well, for me, the moment you've got a footprint of 10,000, for context, I mean, 10,000 restaurants in your portfolio, when the largest kind of retailer on the African continent is a Pepkor that has more than 5,000 stores across their network, and now you've got almost twice that footprint, and you're in consumer, and as you said, consumption is where it's going to be at the moment. I think we can start it off in blue chip. Whether it'll stay in blue chip is another question, but perhaps that's where we started off.
Cool.
Okay, cool. That was easy. Find something, like something,
Add it to the wall.
Add it to the wall. That's how we do it, right? That's the show, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks again to Nafisa for joining us in studio. Thanks to Sai for being my emotional support friend for the rest of my life. We love what we do, and we continue to do what we do for you guys. Before we leave, as always, we will give you an unfiltered opinion because, well, you deserve one, right? And this week's unfiltered opinion is, I suppose, partly a statement, partly a question, but partly something to think about. And Sai's going to weigh in on this, and I'd like you guys to weigh in on it as well. Give us your thoughts around it. The unfiltered opinion of the week is this. We have become too reliant on AI, particularly for the wrong things. And as a result of that, we have lost all sense of common.
Oh, I think we lost common a long time ago.
Not the rapper, the sense. But yes, I think a lot of what is happening at the moment, a lot of the use cases for AI, people are just getting lazy, right? People are not using their own brains to make simple decisions. Now, you see a lot of it on social platforms. Hey, Grok, tell me what this does. Or, you know?
Yeah.
That for me is, you should be able to answer that question yourself.
But the old fashion of trying to disprove a wild and woolly crazy ass theory on the socials used to be the good old fashioned way of, doing the research yourself. Now it's just you ask Grok, and to be clear, they lie.
They lie.
It is
That's
not
simple.
It is
Yeah.
not hallucinations. At points they just lie.
So this is my thing around it as well, is I have found that AI should not stand for artificial intelligence. It should stand for aggregator of information, because that is what you should be using AI for. Aggregating large data sets of information and then still using your common sense to arrive at your own conclusion. But it seems we're eliminating the sense of common part of it, and that is deeply concerning. And that's why that's our unfiltered opinion of the week. And that's the unfiltered opinion. That's where we're going to leave it. Before we go, folks, just remember, next week we are taking a bit of a break. There is a public holiday. We like public holidays, so we might miss you, but we'll definitely be back. Until then, investing isn't hard. Just try it.